Look at the news right now and all you'll see is the potential for nuclear war. We all know that tensions between countries like the USA and Iran are very, very scary. Many countries in the world have nukes, but where do they store them? There's around 15,600 nukes in the world, and they have to be kept somewhere. Well, scarily, they may be kept really nearby to you. Today we're going to look at how far you live away from a nuke. We will look at the entire world beginning in the USA, and also investigate how the USA and Russia lost 51 nukes. I'm Charlie and today we're going to look at how close do you live to a nuke. But before we get blown to pieces, why not subscribe and press the notification bell too. So before we look into individual countries, where are nukes in the world? If you're watching this south of the equator, then good news. There are actually no nukes south of the equator. This means if you're in somewhere like New Zealand, Australia, many African countries, or South America, you're probably safe. In all of those countries, there are no nukes. And as you can see, even some countries in the northern hemisphere don't have nukes. However, all of those countries are near to other countries with nukes. So you're still very much in danger. But as you can now see, these countries all have nukes in their own countries. Now, most actual nukes are concentrated in the USA and Russia. There's also many in Europe. And then there are some other blobs in areas such as Israel and India and Pakistan. And of course, China and North and South Korea. Currently, the USA stores nukes in 10 states. These states are Washington, Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming, Nebraska, Colorado, Missouri, New Mexico, Texas, and Georgia. The nuclear storage facility in Washington is only 18 miles away from the city of Seattle, and the New Mexico nuke facility is located in Albuquerque. It turns out Walter White and Jesse Pinkman aren't the only dangerous things in this city. If you live in Albuquerque, I'm sure you've seen this massive facility. After all, it's larger than 300,000 feet squared, and it's estimated that around 3,000 nukes are stored inside it. To put that into perspective, that's almost 20% of all of the world's nukes. These nukes are often transported between Albuquerque and Amarillo, Texas. And amazingly, these nukes are transported in trucks using the road Interstate 40. So if you've ever driven this route on this road, you may well have driven past a nuclear bomb. If we check out the nuclear facility in Colorado, it's only 77 miles from the city of Denver. And the Missouri nuke facility is only 55 miles from Kansas City. And finally, their Georgia facility is only 32 miles from Jacksonville, Florida. That's a population of nearly 900,000 people. But thankfully, some of the nuclear facilities do not have any major cities within 100 miles. These include Montana, North Dakota, Wyoming, and Nebraska. But remember, just because they're not literally in the cities like they are in Albuquerque and Amarillo doesn't mean you're not in danger. There are huge clusters of missiles in Montana and North Dakota. And it's expected thousands are in Wyoming, Nebraska, and Colorado. And most of these is where these three states meet. So that's where all of the nukes are stored in America. But that isn't where all of the American nukes are stored. You see, the USA is the only country to store nukes outside of their own country. The USA has nukes in Belgium, Germany, Holland. And they also have some in Italy and Turkey. And scarily, many of these nukes are stored very nearby to cities. For example, one nuke is stored 0 miles away from Rotterdam, the second largest city in the Netherlands. Other nukes are stored only 43 miles from Venice, Italy, and 52 miles from Milan. There's also another nuke stored 53 miles away from Brussels, the heart of the EU, and another nuke stored 52 miles away from Cologne, Germany. But let's move on to European nukes not owned by the USA. In Europe, the two biggest nuke owners are the UK and France. The UK stores nukes only 42 miles away from London. That's nearly 9 million people. And they store nukes even closer to Glasgow, Scotland, only 27 miles away from the major city. France also stores many nukes in the center of France. But the one closest to a major city is in Marseille in the south of France. It's only 26 miles away from Marseille with a population of nearly 1 million people. Moving to the right of the world, let's check out the Middle East. Right now, we're not exactly sure how many nukes Israel has. However, just a few days ago, their prime minister did let slip that they do in fact have nukes. And experts have said they're likely in the center of the country. But the nukes are very close to the city of Jerusalem. But moving along in the world, let's check out Russia. Russia is home to the most nukes out of any country in the world. Russia has around 6,500 nukes. To put that into perspective, the USA only has 6,185. However, unlike any other country on Earth, Russia is very secretive when it comes to where they store these nukes. Probably a good idea when it comes to nuclear weapons. However, many militaries around the world have planned out and estimated where Russia keeps their nukes. And basically it wraps all the way around their western, southern and eastern borders. However, they have many near major cities like Moscow and St. Petersburg. The cities of Saratov and Vladivostok also have many nukes. It's estimated that Saratov, Russia, is Russia's most dangerous city in the way of nukes. Northwestern Saratov is where they store many nukes. Southeast of the city there's a bomber base. And further south there's a bigger nuclear storage facility. And in the city 6% of all the nukes in the world are stored, which is over 1,000. Other countries with a lot of nukes include India and Pakistan. I recently did an entire military comparison of these two countries, but they both have nukes. And of course, both countries put their nukes on the border between the two countries. And finally, the other countries which have nukes include China and North Korea. China have nukes all across their entire countries, it's so big. But when it comes to North Korea, we all know Kim Jong-un is a loose cannon, and thus we don't exactly know where he keeps his nukes. At this time, Rocket Man has done 6 nuke tests, but it's believed that they have an arsenal of around 20 to 30 nukes. This means their nuke could be as little as 35 miles away from Seoul, the capital of South Korea. But if you think knowing where all of the nukes in the world are is scary, then get ready to hear this. Right now, there are 51 nukes in the world that no one knows the location of. Russia has lost 40 nukes, and the USA has lost 11. You may wonder, how do you lose a potentially world-ending device? Well, sometimes they simply roll off Navy ships. They then fall to the bottom of the ocean. This actually happened fairly recently, where a plane carrying a nuke fell into the ocean of an aircraft carrier. This happened only 80 miles away from Japan. And in 1956, a B-47 carrying 2 nukes disappeared. It was flying from Florida to Morocco, but it disappeared in a storm in the Mediterranean, never to be seen again. Also, if you live in North Carolina, USA, then there are 2 nukes underground. In 1961, a plane crashed which was carrying 2 powerful hydrogen bombs. Thankfully, they did not go off and one of them was recovered, but the other one hit the ground and was buried so far underground they couldn't get to it. So the US government simply bought the land it went into to make sure no one could dig it up. Another plane crash resulted in 4 hydrogen bombs being dropped in Greenland. 3 have been found, but 1 is impaled in an iceberg somewhere, never to be found again. Another plane also crashed in the sea by Georgia, and it dropped a nuclear bomb less than half a mile away from the nearby houses. They've never found this nuke again, and it's only 12 miles away from a major city named Savannah. So if this lost nuke ever went off, it would take out the entire 150,000 person population. So as scary as it is knowing where nukes are in the world, the scary thing is the 51 lost nukes. But now it's time to make your opinion heard. Vote in the poll in the top right corner, will we ever have a nuclear fallout? If you want some more amazing videos, then check out my second channel. There'll be a link to that on screen in a moment. But as always, thanks for watching. Check out some more videos on screen right now. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to Top 10s.